Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 17, which is the finale episode. And before we get into this episode, I just want to give you all the biggest thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you all for all the well wishes. If you don't know, I was in a car accident on Friday, not how I planned on spending my holiday weekend, and we're on the highway. Traffic had kind of slowed down because I think there was an accident like a few exits away. Y'all, all of a sudden we hear this big boom. And when I tell you it sounded like a bomb went off, the car behind us had rear-ended us. We like kind of flew forward, then we just hit our heads back. I mean, it was insane. So we get out the car like, what just happened? And come to find out, the woman who hit us from behind, she was hit from behind, from the car behind her, and the car behind that guy who hit the woman who hit us, he was rear-ended by a woman who was texting on her phone. So needless to say, this woman caused a 4-car pileup in the middle of the highway at the beginning of a holiday weekend. But God is good that I'm here to tell the story. I already gave myself a big pity party, and I just sat with my feelings all weekend, and I said, okay, this happened, but it will be taken care of. Thank God we weren't the ones who caused the accident. That's something to really cry about. Despite what happened, my life is still good, okay? And I'm not going to let this get me down. So with all that being said, let's jump right on into this recap because you already know that we don't have a minute to spare. So we start this finale episode off with Kenya at home, and she's on FaceTime with the head of sales for Kenya Moore Hair Care. And we find out that CVS wants to put Kenya Moore Hair Care in 5,000 stores.
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
So Kenya says that she's really happy because we remember a few months ago she was saying that she was really upset and just scared because her line might have been shut down because she couldn't get the packaging from overseas. So we learned that Kenya paid extra money for the packaging to come on time, and we see that it's all paid off because now she's in 5,000 CVS stores. I was like, again, won't he do it? Like, that's just amazing. CVS is that girl, okay? So the fact that she's going to be in 5,000 stores, like, that's some money. So I'm happy for Kenya, happy to hear that. Because listen, I would have been afraid too. Like, you work so hard and now your line might be defunct because of a shipping issue or a packaging issue. That's scary. So I was happy for Kenya that it's all figured out. And now she's going to be in CVS. So now we move on to the next scene, and we see Marlo with her nephews, and they're at Sanya and Ross's house. So we find out that Marlo's nephews are going to be spending some time with Ross because Ross has offered to spend some quality time with them and to pretty much be a mentor since they don't really have a father figure in their lives. We see Sanya say in her confessional that she wants Marlo to know that Marlo does have a village and they're all willing to step in. Now we also see that the nephews are going to be learning how to change tires and change oil with Ross. Now let me just say this, y'all know how I feel about Sanya and Marlo, but I actually did like them in this scene. Marlo is actually tolerable when she is just pleasant. And I said, Sanya, when you're not flip-flopping or trying to start fights with Kenya and Drew, you're actually all right. I didn't mind you in this scene. I thought it was sweet that Sanya got them all mechanic outfits when they went outside to change the tires and oil. I was like, now that's cute. So anyhow, while the guys are outside, we see Sanya and Marlo in the kitchen and they're cooking tacos. So now Marlo brings up that her mom is in town visiting, and we learn that her mom is in a hotel and not staying with her. So Sanya's asking, oh, why is she at a hotel? Why isn't she with you? So Marlo says it's for the best for the both of them because the last time she stayed at Marlo's home, they got into a disagreement and her mom left out the house and she was banging on all the neighbors' doors talking about this about Marlo. So she was like, look, I'm just going to have her in a hotel this time so that we don't have these sort of problems again. And I have to say, when Marlo told that story about how her mom was banging on the neighbor's door, saying all that stuff about Marlo, I was like, it all makes sense as to why Marlo acts the way she does. Because look at how she acted towards Kenya at Sanya's cooking class about Kenya not coming to that party that she threw for Sheree. And it seems like Marlo goes from 0 to 100 like that. But hearing that, I said, yeah, I would have my mom in a hotel too if she treated me like that the last time we were together. So Marlo goes on to say that she just hopes that her mom can be in her right mind during this visit, and she thinks that it's sad that her mom can't seem to put the drugs and alcohol down. And then she adds that she's willing to try again because she does want that mother-daughter bond, and also she wants William and Michael to see that they're loved, and on top of that, she just hopes that her mom can get the proper help that she needs. So now Ross and the nephews go into another room to eat dinner, and it's just Marlo and Sanya again talking privately, and we learn that Sanya has taken out her IUD, and it seems like she wants to have another child. Now, did anybody catch how Marlo seemed confused about what an IUD is? I was like, Marlo, really? Because she was like, is it a what? It's an IDU? Like, what is it? I was like, Marlo, girl. She was definitely giving me Sergio from Real Housewives of Dubai. If you watch Dubai, then you know that Sergio is very lost when it comes to sex ed. So we have Sanya telling Marlo that she and Ross sat down and had this big heart-to-heart conversation the other day, and Ross pretty much told her that he doesn't want to force her into having a second child if that's not what she wants, and how he only wants what she wants. So then she says that it was just so sexy to hear him say that, and now she wants to give him another child because she feels like he finally understands where she's been coming from all this time. And then she goes on to say that she wants a baby girl this time around. And then Marlo's like, I mean, is there any way that you can talk to God and let him know that you want a girl? And she's like, oh yeah, girl, I have God on the main line. I feel like Sanya and Ross did this for a storyline, because I'm just not convinced that one conversation has now changed Sanya's mind that she now wants to have a second child. We saw her crying in past episodes about how she was overwhelmed with one child. She could not imagine having 2 children. So now all of a sudden, one conversation, and now she's like, okay, I'm taking out the IUD and, I want a second baby. Like, I don't know. This kind of felt a bit fake to me. I don't know if I'm the only one who felt this way, but I was kind of like, really, Sanya? You were so adamant that you did not want a second child, how Ross checked out emotionally when you guys had your first child. So I don't know if I'm really buying this. And who's to say that Ross won't slip into the same patterns if you guys do end up having a second child? So we jump to this next scene with Sheree arriving to the event space where she's going to be having her fashion show. Now, mind you, it's a week before the fashion show, okay? So time is of the essence that everything is in tip-top shape. She's greeted by the event planner, Tori, and Rowan. And the venue was gorgeous. I was like, now I know that Sheree paid a pretty penny to have her show here. So I said, she can plunk down thousands of dollars for this, but can't give Drew the $13.50 that she still owes. Got it. Sheree picks and chooses who she wants to stiff out of money. But again, I digress. Now, this is a very small observation, but the bag that Sheree was carrying in this scene, it looked very familiar. If you guys remember, in the first episode of season 1, when we were introduced to all the ladies, and Sheree was throwing herself that big 38th birthday party at her home, the infamous episode where she left Nene off the guest list. Remember how she had a cake made out of one of her bags? It looked like that was the bag that she made that cake out of. Remember? I was like, is that the same bag? Like, it's all coming full circle. But just a small thing that I noticed, I was thinking, I wonder if anybody else noticed that too. So Sheree gives some bad news that while the venue is booked, the clothes are a different story. She outsourced some stuff to a production house in New York, and the woman contacted her on Monday, letting her know that all the pieces would not be ready in time for the show. So we learned that Sheree is expecting 24 pieces, but so far she only has 5 pieces. So she's like, I'm livid, I'm overwhelmed, I'm just so pissed right now because we can't have another failure. Now when Sheree was going on about how she only had 5 pieces, I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I was just shocked hearing this, like, Sheree, this makes no sense. 14 years in the making, you already know people are expecting you to fail. You need to cover all your bases. I could see if there had to be some alterations done and you send them back, but to still be waiting on the actual pieces, like, absolute insanity. Ultimately, I still stand by what I've said before. I really think that Sheree's true purpose is being in fitness. I think that that is where she shines. That's where she would make a killing. I think that, her doing workout plans and workout routines, workout tapes, that's where she would really excel in. I just don't believe that her being in fashion and trying to have this line, I don't think that is for her. I just think that she's trying to force something that's not meant for her to do, if that makes sense. Because hearing that she doesn't have pieces, it's always all this mess, it's just like, Sheree, this just might not be for you, and that's okay. And if you're an OG Atlanta watcher, then you know that before Sheree got on the show, she used to own a high-end boutique called Bella Azul. There's not a whole lot of information on it, but I was doing a deep dive and the store got closed down because of money. But the store being closed down, She by Sheree taking 14 years to finally come to completion, it just might not be for her. But again, I digress. So Sheree's telling Tori and Rowan that it's the point of no return, and if She by Sheree does not get off the ground now, then it's just going to be time for her to bury it. Like, she cannot afford to have another failure. So Sheree's super emotional at this point. Tori gives her a hug, and then we have Sheree saying in her confessional that she still has PTSD over her first fashion show. She goes on to say that it's embarrassing, and not a day goes by where she's walking down the street and somebody will yell out, She by Sheree. And one of y'all had me screaming on Twitter. You were like, we've lived through 3 different presidents, people graduated high school and college and getting their master's degrees, and Sheree still has not come out with this damn line.
You know what? This is too much.
Now, Bravo is so petty because they kept playing Dwight's line of a fashion show with no fashions, how dreadful. And I was like, I hope Dwight got paid for that. That line needs to go down as one of the greatest lines in reality TV history, okay? Like, Dwight really did something. So now we jump to the next scene with Marlo. She's in the car about to pick her mom up because they're going to have a mother-daughter day. Now, while she's on her way to the hotel, she's saying a prayer that her and her mom have a nice time and that they don't end up arguing. So we see Marlo get to the hotel and her mom arrives. They give each other a big hug. And I felt bad because her mom had no teeth in her mouth. Her mom had accidentally thrown out her dentures that Marlo got her. So anyhow, we see Marlo and her mom doing some shopping, and we learn that Marlo's mom actually has a store where she sells things wholesale. So they're looking at some scarves and some hats and some sunglasses. Marlo says that she gets her fashion sense from her mom because her mom is very over the top, very gaudy, and she feels like the more the merrier when it comes to accessories. So they take a break from trying things on, and now they have a heart-to-heart, and Marlo's mom says that she would love to come back home. And Marlo says that that would be her dream for her mom to come and live in Atlanta as well. So now we see Marlo asking her mom if her mom is done with drugs, and her mom goes on to say that she's happy that Marlo has forgiven her, but she's also forgiven Marlo for things that she's done to her. So Marlo's surprised. She's like, well, what have I done to you that warrants your forgiveness of me? So we learned that back in the day, Marlo had bought her mom this house, I think she said in Lithonia, and she had kicked all them out the house. Now, I'm going to assume that this house is the house that the billionaire bought for Marlo's mom. I do remember Marlo saying that the billionaire bought her and her mom a house. So I'm guessing that's the house. But I might be wrong. If I am wrong, let me know down in the comments. So Marlo says, I got you that house because I want it to be for family and for the grandkids, so that way they would never have to be in foster care. And now we learned that Michael and William were also living in this house with the grandma at this time, and it was a really awful environment. There were people doing drugs, a lot of fighting going on. Marlo's mom was nowhere to be found a lot of times. She'd be leaving the house for days, walking the streets. And Marlo was getting all these calls from the police. So she goes on to say that, again, it was a bad environment, and that's why she kicked her mom out of that house. I have to say, this scene was really tough to watch, especially when Marlo asked her mom, do you think that I lost something when I left home at 10? And then when her mom said, I always came to see you, and then she went over to hug her and said, I love you. And then Marlo said, I love you too. And then when the mom kept saying, you've been staying away from me. And when Marlo said, I've been staying away because you've hurt me. And I just saw two people who would really benefit from some therapy. It's clear that they have a lot of issues still. There's still a lot of hurt and pain there. And I just felt sorry. It also seems like Marlo's mom doesn't want to take accountability for things that she's done to Marlo, because when Marlo explained why she kicked her out the house, we saw that her mom didn't really say anything. It just seemed like every time Marlo brought up a valid point about why she did something or why she was hurt about something, her mom really didn't want to hear it. But I really did feel sorry for Marlo. And like I said earlier on, it's evident that we see why Marlo is the way she is. And I'm not excusing her behavior at all, but it just clicks now as to why she can't seem to keep friends, why she's so hateful when she argues with people. Like, it all makes sense. So now we jump to the next scene and we see Kenya Moore at CVS, and she's there with Brandon. Now, I was shocked to see Brandon. We hadn't seen him in quite some time. I feel like the last time we saw him was like season 7 or season 8, but it's been a while. He looks good. It was nice to see him there, and I'm glad that they're still friends. So anyhow, we see Kenya being greeted by one of the brand managers of CVS, and we see a whole shelf stocked with Kenya Moore hair care, and Kenya is really excited, and she should be. So we see Candy arrive for the unveiling. She says that even her products aren't sold in CVS. So for Kenya to be in CVS, that's a huge accomplishment. And then she adds that she's really proud of Kenya. And then we have Sanya arrive. She's excited for Kenya. She's like, this is a huge deal to be in CVS. Like, congratulations. And this scene alone showed what you're supposed to do when you have a platform like this. And the fact that Sheree, it's been 14 years and a whole lot of nothing, it really speaks volumes. So anyhow, we see Kenya cut the purple ribbon and they're all cheering her on. And then we see Miss Drew Sidora arrive. She has some flowers for Kenya. And then we see that she has a boot on her foot. So they're all congratulating Kenya once again. Kenya thanks them all for coming out to support her. And then she says that she feels like her life is finally turning around and she's happy. So now she starts asking them if they're ready for the fashion show. So they're all like, yeah, I'm excited, but does she have any pieces? Because the last time we spoke to her, she didn't have any pieces. So Kenya says, well, I spoke to her and she has 5 pieces, but she was supposed to have 22 pieces. So they're all like, oh, okay. And so we have Drew saying, well, I guess it's better than nothing. Like, she at least has something. And then she says, well, I hope it's an actual fashion show, not a party, because we all know that she hates paying for parties. And we learned that Drew has yet to receive a dime from Sheree for the joint birthday party for Marlo and Kenya. I was like, if I were Drew, I would still be salty as well, because it's not about the money, it's about the principle. The fact that you could have a friend or an associate cheat you out of money right in your face and not even care, that would be an issue for me. Because like I've told you guys, I don't play when it comes to that. If I tell you that I'm going to give you half of the money, if we're throwing a joint birthday party or some event together, you don't ever have to run and chase me down for it. I'm going to already give it to you immediately. Like, I pride myself on that. I don't like for things to be hanging over my head. I don't like the feeling of having to owe somebody. So if we ever split the cost on a party or whatever, I got you. I'm already saying to you, hey, how much was it so I can give you the money? Like, I'm never going to cheat anybody. And the fact that Sheree could be so comfortable doing that on national TV, just pathetic. But we know that Sheree's had a reputation for cheating people. She was sued by her contractors, not wanting to pay them. Marlo and Kim told us in the earlier seasons that she was going to Neiman Marcus writing bad checks or returning things that she had worn to get the money back. So when it comes to Sheree and money, it's always going to be an issue. And then we end the scene with them marching out of CVS, and it was so funny because they were dancing to her little song that she made up, Kenya Moore Hair Care. That scene was low-key iconic, though, when she crashed Marlo's wig event and she had that marching band come. Now we move on to a short yet troubling scene with Kandi and her mom meeting up at OLG. So they sit down to talk. Candy's letting Mama Joyce know that she and Todd have been going over their estate planning. And I was thinking, now Kandi, you already know how your mom feels about your husband. You already know how your mom acts about your money. So I don't know why you felt the need to tell your mom about this. So Candy's telling her mom how she and Todd want to do different trusts. And so Mama Joyce interrupts and she says, I think that the things that you accumulated before you got married need to be separate and given to the kids. Mama Joyce goes on to say that Riley was there before anybody and how Riley should be the child in the forefront. So now Candy's like, well, damn, Mama, like, what about Ace and Blaze? So Mama Joyce says, well, Candy, they have a father. Riley never had the benefit of having a father. So like I said, she should be the child in the forefront. So now Candy says that she would like to leave Todd something if she were to pass before him. Now when Candy said that, I was like, Candy, please. You are determined to get your mother's blood pressure up. Because, again, why would you say that? So now Mama Joy says, why would you want to give somebody something to set them up to live a lavish life with somebody else? So now Candy's like, well, he better not. And Mama Joy says, girl, once you're dead, you have no say-so in the matter. So now Candy says in her confessional that God forbid if she were to pass away now, she would hope that Todd didn't remarry. And Candy says Todd could have a girlfriend or companion, but nothing legally, because she doesn't want anything to go to that person instead of going to her kids. Now, once again, Candy, God forbid if tragedy were to strike, you don't have any say-so in the matter. You can't control if Todd were to remarry again. You can hope he wouldn't, but again, you won't be able to dictate anything if, God forbid, you were to pass away. So now Mama Joyce wants to know who would be in charge of the trust. Candy says Don Juan. And when Mama Joyce said it should be me and Don Juan, and Candy was like, well, damn, you want to kill me off early, huh? Mama Joyce is in her 70s. Does she plan on living forever? I was like, Mama Joyce, no. But Candy's a good sport about it. She's like, if I were to pass, it would be tough with my mom and Todd trying to figure things out. I was like, that would be a nightmare, actually. They would be in court for decades. Can you imagine? That would really be awful. So now we jump to the next scene with Sheree. She is back at the venue. It is the day before the fashion show, and she is doing a walkthrough to see the event space and to go over how the night is supposed to go. So everything is beautifully set up. The space looks gorgeous. We see the models are there. Sheree finally hired a modeling agency. I said, thank God. And then Sheree, of course, is saying that her fashion show is the hottest ticket in town Everybody keeps texting her, asking to bring a +1, and how she is just really excited. But we all know how big Sheree's ego is, so I wasn't surprised to hear her talking about, it's the hottest ticket in town and all this stuff. It really brought me back to that first season when she was saying the same thing about her birthday party. But I digress. So now we see Sheree talking to Rowan and Tori. And Sheree's like, Rowan is saving the day. She's a lifesaver. And so they're talking about the pieces. So Rowan is like, look, where are the pieces? Because if I have to get on a plane and get these pieces myself, I'll do that. So now Sheree says that she's waiting on another package today and she only has 5 pieces and she's waiting on 19 more. So Rowan is like, oh my gosh, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, Rowan was pissed. She was like, girl, are you serious? So Rowan is trying to figure something out. She's like, so do you think that this show can be at least 15 or 16 minutes long? Because if it's any shorter than that, then it's not considered a fashion show. So then Sheree says, well, if not, it's going to be a preview. I was like, girl, nobody waited 14 years for a preview. So now we see Sheree and her team talking to all the models. And then we see Apollo come through, because remember that Apollo agreed to do Sheree a favor and walk in the show. So while Sheree is talking to her daughter Callie, we all of a sudden see Tyrone. So now Sheree looks up and she's like, Tyrone, are you effing kidding me right now? What is he doing here? So Tyrone walks up to her. He's like, hey, I had to pull up. He gives her a hug. And now he asks Sheree if they can talk for a minute. So they go off to the side to talk. And Callie had me screaming. She was whispering who is that? And the producer said to her, that's Tyrone. And she was like, her facial expressions for me won the night. I could not stop laughing. I said, what a shame that your daughter is just now meeting your boyfriend of 6 years who happened to be in jail like this. Tyrone looked just as goofy as I thought he would look. Then you have Sheree throwing shade in her confessional talking about, why does Tyrone look like bruh man from the 5th floor from Martin? I was like, Sheree, don't start, because you were deeply in love with this man. Now you want to sit up here and shade him. Not too much, sis, because 5 episodes ago, you were crying over this man. And another reason why you should never take what people say about you to heart, because one minute people love you, then the next minute they hate you. Now it's you were never all that, you were never that cute, all this, that, and the third. So it's like, again, take what folks say with a grain of salt, all right? Because one day folks love you, the next day they can't stand you. I see it on YouTube firsthand. When you agree with me, you love me, I'm the best. Then when I'm saying something about your fave, now you're upset with me, now you can't stand me, so. But shout out to the majority of you guys who have sense and can disagree in a peaceful manner, all right, and not get crazy. So now we learned that Sheree is really close with Tyrone's cousin Stan, and she invited him to the fashion show. So that's probably why Tyrone is in Atlanta right now, and that's how he knew where she was. Now, I was thinking, if I've broken up with somebody, most likely I'm not going to remain in contact with the family. And I damn sure I'm not going to invite the cousin of my ex to my fashion show. Stan would not have gotten an invite because you already know he's going to report back to Tyrone. So immediately, Sheree and Tyrone start going at it. Sheree's like, oh, so you pop up in my city? I popped up in your city multiple times and you stood me up. So now Tyrone says, we used to go to restaurants all the time, but we weren't taping it. And now all of a sudden you want to publicize it. So now Sheree says, but you knew I was taping. So Tyrone is the ultimate BS artist. He's making excuses, talking in circles. And now Sheree's like, so why are you here today? So he's talking about he wanted to support her and he wanted to come out. And now Sheree says, so you have no remorse about anything? So Tyrone says, why would I apologize to you when I could have gone back to prison? So Sheree's like, what are you talking about? So Sheree's livid along with confused. I was confused too because I was like, where in Tyrone's pea brain does he think that Sheree owes him an apology? So now Sheree's like, I don't owe you any apology. You know what? Just leave, get out of my face. I don't even want you here. And I damn sure am not about to argue with you in front of my daughter. So Sheree walks off, and I was screaming because Callie like popped up out of nowhere, and Tyrone introduces himself to Callie. He's like, hi, I'm Tyrone. Nice to meet you. And I said, Callie, I would not have shaken hands with that man. I would have told him to get the F out. You're not going to sit up here and try to play my mom like that, okay? So now we see Tyrone walk over to Apollo, and Apollo's like, look, man, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. You don't leave your queen like that. So now Tyrone tells Apollo that he's on the wrong side. And I was thinking, once again, this man has the logic of a flea, because how can he think that he's not in the wrong? Sheree deserves an apology. Tyrone is such an idiot. Like, why can't you just admit that you're wrong? Just give her an apology. Why is that so hard? And what makes things worse is you didn't even have the decency to text her or call her. You had her calls going to voicemail, you blocked her, so she couldn't even get in touch with you. Now, I want to know, how much was Apollo paid for these last 2 episodes? Because he had his own confessional. He was talking about under subsection 32, everybody has the right to media presence. So Tyrone is basically lying, and he's full of it, about he was worried about going back to prison because the cameras were rolling. So to add insult to injury, Tyrone walks right back over to Sheree. He's like, you know, everything looks really nice. And then Sheree's like, thank you, but don't you think that you owe me an apology? So Tyrone says, well, I think that both of us owe each other an apology. So Sheree says, you know what, Tyrone? Please get out of my face. I don't want to see you here. Like, just leave. Now, personally, I would have had everybody on alert. If you see this man come on the premises tomorrow, kick him out. The same way she did Nene, season 1, episode 1, do the same thing with Tyrone. Tyrone would not be able to come back on the premises. And another thing, you could tell that Tyrone loved the cameras on him. He loved the attention, because he kept looking at the cameras. And it was like, really, Tyrone? Because when he was having the conversation with Apollo, he was looking around, and I was like, you're obviously looking around to see where the cameras are. Little things like that to show me that he's also fame hungry too. So now we jump to yet another emotional scene with Marlo and her mom. Marlo invites her mom over to see her archive studio, and we see Marlo's mom arrive. She's trying on things, and it was funny because she had tried on these Dolce & Gabbana sunglasses, and she was like, Marlo, how much are these? And Marlo said $2,500. And she put them down so fast, she was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I can't wait to get rich. So now we learned that Marlo has invited Candy because she wants Candy to meet her mother. And we see a clip of Marlo FaceTiming Candy to invite her. And then Marlo's mom goes on to say that she's happy that Candy's coming, and she's happy that Marlo and Candy have made amends. Now, personally, if I were Candy, I would have turned the invitation down, because you don't get to insult me and be nasty and be cruel and then want to make amends over a piece of chicken and then invite me to sit down with your mother. And I'm still annoyed with Candy for even giving Marlo a second chance over some KFC. So while they're waiting for Candy to arrive, the conversation changes gears, and Marlo brings up how she's pretty much like the money tree in her family. So she goes on to say that when she tells somebody no, she's automatically the bad guy. So now Marlo's mom says that she's cried so many times asking God, why won't Marlo come and see her? And then she says, why hasn't my daughter spent time with me on Christmas? So Marlo says under her breath, well, you still get those Christmas gifts from me, even though I'm not there. So now Marlo says, but Mom, you're the center of all the issues between us. Like, you do know that, right? And like I said earlier, it's apparent that Marlo's mom has a hard time taking accountability for what she's done. And now Marlo's mom says that she wants to bring this friend around. So Marlo is livid. Like, you can tell that she's obviously triggered. And so she's like, are you serious right now? You're always thinking about men. It's always about men with you. Like, probably why I don't have a man now. So now we learned that when Marlo was growing up, her mom pretty much chose men over her. and she felt like she had to share the attention between her mom's boyfriends. So her mom says that she's been seeing this man for 4 years. Marlo's like, really? What does he do? Does he even have a job? Has he ever bought you a house? Like, what is he doing for you? And I was thinking, valid questions. Because, you know, just saying that you have a man, that's not any accomplishment. And then if you have some broke, raggedy man, it's really not an accomplishment. So I understand her frustration where it's like, okay, well, you have a new man, but what is he doing for you? You know, especially if she feels like she's giving her mom money and her mom is laying up with bums who have nothing. You know, she has every right to be upset. It was very telling when Marlo said, that's probably why I don't have a man today. I've always suspected that Marlo might have some issues when it comes to like love and relationships. Like, I don't know. Something about Marlo seems very detached. So Marlo's so angry, she walks out, and as she's walking out, Candy arrives. Candy can sense the tension in the room between Marlo and her mom. And so Candy, you know, greets the mom. She's really sweet to her. And then when Marlo comes back in the room, her mom apologizes to Marlo. She says, I'm sorry if I made you cry. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, and I won't bring my friend around. So now the three of them sit down to talk. Candy says, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've heard so much about you. And then she goes on to ask Marlo's mom, how old was Marlo when she got on drugs? And we learned that Marlo was about 7 years old. So obviously her mom's emotional. And then Candy says in her confessional that while she and Mama Joyce might have their issues, she's very appreciative for her mom. And I have to admit to you guys, growing up, I was kind of naive because I always assumed that everybody had the relationship like I did with my parents. You know, like, and then when you get older, you know, going to college and then you find out that that's not the case, it really makes you thankful. I really do pray for Marlo and her mom. I hope that they are able to get it together and get their relationship on track. I hope that they can both just put the past behind them and just start anew. But it really was sad to see. And, you know, I was getting emotional just watching that. So now we finally get to the scene that we have all been waiting for. It is the day of the She by Sheree fashion show. In the making for 14 years. So we see Sheree getting ready at home with her makeup artist. She's telling them how Tyrone came in out of nowhere while she was doing the walkthrough and she was really pissed. Then we find out that Sheree actually has all 24 pieces. They came in last night. I said, won't he do it? I said, finally, some good news. So now we see Sheree arrive at the venue. She says that it feels different than it did 14 years ago. She's ready. She's excited. We see that Sheree has a seamstress on deck in case there are any alterations that need to be made. The models are getting ready. I couldn't stop laughing because one of the models had on this like red jumpsuit and the seamstress made it so tight that the model had a camel toe. And Sheree was like what's going on? Now we flip to a short scene with all the ladies getting ready. We see Drew at home getting glammed up. Marlo's at home putting her outfit on. Then we have Kenya going over her clothing choices with Brooklyn. And she was like, Brooklyn, what should I wear? And so Brooklyn pointed out to the sequins. I was like, good taste. So anyhow, we flip right on back to the fashion show. It's an hour before the show starts. And all the guests start arriving. We see Deshawn Snow there. The Married to Medicine ladies are there. Dr. Jackie Quad is there. Sheree's ex, Bob Whitfield, is there, along with some other prominent folks. Now, I was just thinking, Bob put Sheree through all sorts of hell, too. There's no way that I could ever speak to Bob again if I were Sheree. Like, I don't know how she's able to have a cordial relationship with him. He didn't want to pay child support or spousal support or anything. Like, a mess. But anyhow, we see some other prominent people in Atlanta there. I was surprised that Lisa Wu wasn't there because we saw Lisa Wu at Sheree's sleepover. So I was really shocked that she wasn't at her fashion show. So anyhow, we now see Drew and Ralph arrive. Drew was so funny because she was like, okay, it looks nice. I see that Sheree has put my money to good use. I was like, Drew is not going to let this go. But I get it though, because I would still feel a way as well.
And you're gonna always get it again and again and again.
So now we see Candy show up, and then Fatum arrives. Then we have Kenya and Sanya arrive. I thought that Kenya looked amazing. I love the dress. So now we have Marlo arrive, and she's talking to all the ladies. She's like, it is gorgeous. It looks like a wedding in here. Then she jokes around that she low-key thinks that Sheree and Tyrone are going to get married tonight. And then Marlo says, well, I actually saw Tyrone. He's here tonight. So she goes on to say how he's in this white and black checkered suit with flowers, and how he's actually been in Atlanta for the past few nights. Now, mind you, it's now 7 p.m., and it's 30 minutes before the show starts, and Sheree is still nowhere near ready. So, of course, we have Tyrone walk to the dressing room that Sheree is in, and he comes in with these 2 bouquets of flowers in his arms. So he's being all affectionate, giving Sheree the flowers, giving her a big hug. And so Sheree is like, oh, you know, what does Tyrone want? And I was thinking, Sheree, Nene already said that seasons ago when she was trying to warn you about your man. But you didn't want to listen to her, and you want to act like somebody was jealous about your man from prison. So don't call him Tyrone now, sis. So Sheree says that she appreciates Tyrone for being there tonight, and then she takes the flowers, and I was on the floor because she was like, I mean, these cheap grocery store flowers, and production is so shady because they were like, the flowers were $19.99 from Publix. And then you have Sheree's mom, Thelma, come in. And so Sheree introduces Thelma to Tyrone. And so she's like, Ma, here's Tyrone. So Thelma's looking like, okay, am I supposed to know this man? And she says, Prison Bae. I was like, Sheree, you're not ashamed. And then when Tyrone gave Sheree's mom the bouquet of flowers, and then production wrote $14.99, I said, production is so shady. So now we have the legendary Dwight show up, and when I tell you, I was so happy to see Dwight back on my screen. Like, I really loved when him and Nene used to just let the girls have it. I mean, his shade is iconic. So anyhow, he's there. He goes backstage to see Sheree. Sheree's like, oh my gosh, Dwight, I'm so happy to see you. Like, if anybody had to be here, it had to be you, because I have to show you that I have fashions this time around. So Dwight's like, you look beautiful. I'm happy to see you. I'm just so proud of you. For my people in Atlanta, is Dwight still doing hair? Because I remembered seeing that he had to shut both of his salons down due to money problems. So let me know. Does he still do hair in Atlanta? Does he still live in Atlanta? Like, what's he doing? I remember last seeing him on Botched, but let me know. It just seemed like once he crossed Nene in season 3, things were never the same with him. So now we flip back to all the ladies. They're just, you know, talking, waiting around, and Marlo calls Tyrone over. Now, mind you, this is everybody's first time meeting Tyrone. So Tyrone is greeting everybody. Candy says to Tyrone, how do we get the pleasure of seeing you tonight? And then Tyrone says that he's officially free now. He's off the ankle monitor, so he had to come through and support. I was like, Tyrone, shut up. You just wanted some camera time. So now they're asking Tyrone if Sheree knew that he was going to be there. And so he says, no, I surprised her. Kenya says, I don't like him. He seems sketchy to me. Like, Sheree, please end this. Then Marlo says they had a nice run. She got with him when he had money. Now he's broke, so the run should be over. Did Tyrone really have money like that? A lot of you guys told me that he did, and how he funded Sheree's house. Like, let me know, is that true? I thought that he was a party promoter or something. I didn't know that Tyrone had all this money, allegedly, but let me know. So now it's 7:30 when the fashion show should be starting, and yet nobody is on time. Sheree is still getting ready. Everybody is just standing there at the bar waiting for the show to start. Now, it was really funny because Peter Thomas was there as well. He said hi to Kenya, and I guess his fly was unzipped, and Kenya was like, hey, your fly is open, and he just ran off. I was like, okay, like, what's that all about? And then when Kenya says he is high as a kite, I don't care what anybody says. Peter loved being on TV, and he loved when he was on this show with Cynthia. So now it's 8 p.m. and they are a half hour behind schedule. Everybody's growing restless. Kandi and Marlo are like, look, my feet are hurting in these heels. I need to sit down. Now it's 8:30, a whole hour behind schedule, and we see Sheree and her team praying. Now, I love a good prayer, but y'all need to be on time, okay? Y'all should have prayed an hour ago. So we see everybody take their seats. They're still waiting for the show to start. Dwight was so over it. He was shaking his head. His face was all frowned up. He was like, I'm ready to go. So the show finally starts 2 hours later, and I have to say the models look good. The pieces look cute. I said, okay, Sheree, this is what we wanted to see in season 1. Now, it looked like Dwight didn't look impressed because his facial expressions as the models were walking, I was like, does he like the pieces? Does he not like the pieces? Like, what's going on? Because we know that Dwight can be very critical. So I couldn't get a gauge of what he thought about the pieces. Now, when Apollo came down the runway, Kenya was like, okay, that's my cue to leave. Like, goodbye. Shout out to everybody. I have fun.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun.
I gotta be good.
Because we all remember the drama between her, Phaedra, and Apollo, okay? Apollo just completely lied on her. And it was also really funny because there was this really cute model, and Kenya was like, ooh, like, he's fine. Like, I want to give him my number. And she even stood up when he was walking too. I said, Kenya, go on and ask Sheree to pass along your number. So now the show is over. Sheree comes out. Sparklers come out. And everybody's like, she did the damn thing. I'm so proud of her. Kenya says, won't he do it? Or should I say, won't she do it? Drew had me screaming. She was like, it was worth the wait. I mean, I wouldn't say it was worth 14 years, but it was definitely worth the wait. Sheree says that she's just so happy that it's been 14 years in the making. She's had a lot of letdowns, and she wants to show anybody who's ever wanted to quit on themselves to keep pressing forward, don't give up, and to know that they can do it because she did it. Now, I was like, Sheree, let's not, because it's been 14 years of laziness, you not wanting to pay people. Like, don't sit up here and act like you've had all these things just come upon you. Like, you've been the center of why She by Sheree has not gotten off the ground. But I am glad that you finally had the fashion show. You finally had the pieces. The pieces look cute. Okay, I will always give credit where credit is due. So while everybody's hugging Sheree and telling her how proud they are of her, Tyrone walks up to her and he's like, can I talk to you for a second? And she says, no, like, go away. So we see Tyrone finally walk off, leave her alone, and Sheree says that she is done with that. I said, thank God, Sheree. Please do not ever allow yourself to get desperate where you seek out a man in prison. So now we end this finale with Sheree telling all the ladies to give her their best model walk. We see Sanya hit the runway first, and then we see the montage of what she's up to now. She got her IUD removed, and it looks like she and Ross are going to be working on another baby. Then we have Kandi get on the runway, and we learn that her and Todd's estate planning has gone unfinished. I was thinking, that's a bit too important. Y'all need to finalize that today. Because God forbid something happens and nothing is in writing, it could be a whole mess. So Kandi, please just see it through and get this stuff in writing. And then we learn that Kandi is going to be producing another Broadway play starring Samuel L. Jackson called The Piano Man. Now I said, you already know that Kandi's about her coin, and the fact that she's going to be producing a play with Samuel L. Jackson in it, that's going to be a major bag. So kudos to Kandi. So now we see Drew walk down the runway, and then we learn that she's still working on her fitness and her marriage, and how Ralph's book is about to be released in the coming days, and how Drew has still not read the book. And I was thinking, I just don't understand what the issue is with Ralph not wanting his wife to read the book. The fact that she's going to be reading this book the same time the other people read it, that's a mess. Drew, if you do come back for season 15, no more of this marriage storyline, because I'm tired of hearing about the problems that you and Ralph have. I really am. Then we see Kenya on the runway, and we learn that she and Brooklyn went on a European tour all summer long. And I was screaming at the shade because they said her Mary Kay wig was unable to travel with them internationally. I was like, y'all are so shady. And then we see Marlo and her montage. We see that she's breaking ground on her new home and how she's working on her self-improvement journey. Personally, her self-improvement journey needs to be off camera because I don't want to see it season 15. I think that Marlo was a terrible addition, and this needs to be her first and final season as a peach holder. And then we ended off with Sheree. She's at a fulfillment center with all her She by Sheree pieces, and we learned that she is a new man in her life, no longer talks to Tyrone, and her site is up and available for purchase. Now, Sheree, you went from Bob Whitfield to a man in prison to now Martell Holt from Love and Marriage Huntsville. If you are familiar with Love and Marriage Huntsville, then you know that Martell is a hot mess. Like, I wouldn't touch that man with a 10-foot pole. Okay? This man is a serial cheater. The way he did his ex-wife, they have 4 children together. He was constantly cheating on her, gaslighting her. They divorced. He knocked up his long-suffering side chick, and now he's left her in the dust. So, knowing all this, 5 kids, an ex-wife, a baby mama / ex-mistress, this is the man that you want to be with, Sheree? Like, it just feels like when it comes to men, Sheree is determined to make the worst choices. I don't understand why she would want to get with Martell. I honestly feel like he's using you for camera time. Because if we're being honest, Real Housewives is a bigger and more popular show than Love and Marriage. And Bravo is the network when it comes to reality TV. So I just think that he's using you. I hope that you stay alert. And again, I think that Martell is just an awful choice. But I guess he's not in prison, so I guess that's 1 point for Martell. Yay. And Sheree, when the episode went off, I went on your site, shebysheree.com. I did not see any clothes that I was able to purchase. And then I saw on your Instagram, you said that your site crashed and it's all this stuff. I'm like, Sheree, folks did not wait 14 years for the website to not even work. And then when I went on the site again, I see that you have 3 workout sets and some hoodies. And folks were doing side-by-side comparisons on Twitter, and come to find out, one of the jogger sets that you have is the exact replica of something on Shein and Amazon. I was like, girl, what is going on? And folks were saying that Sheree just has some marked up AliExpress. I was like, child, 14 years later. But you know what? I guess it's good that Sheree has something. But y'all, that was my recap. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Next week is the reunion. The reunion looks lit. I have to say, I'm surprised that Sheree and Marlo are first chair. And then to see Kenya in the middle, I'm like, what? But I guess Andy feels like Marlo and Sheree brought the most drama. So, yeah. Overall, Atlanta was a cute season. Not their best season, but definitely not the worst, because season 13 was terrible. But y'all, thank you again for watching, and you guys already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Bye.